Preseason week 1 is in the books. It was not an awesome showing for the Browns, but it's the preseason, so I did not lose a single wink of sleep over the 23-10 final against the Packers. I want to run through some of the winners and losers, though, after that first preseason game. Only 3, so every single snap counts for guys on the roster bubble. But quickly, some injury news coming out of the first preseason game. David Bell, he hopped up with a quad injury after taking a bit of a hit in the first half. Luke Wypler will go in more depth in just a moment, but he was carted off the field with an ankle injury. Rookie linebacker Nathaniel Watson dealt with a quad injury in the second half. Ronnie Hickman and Vincent Gray dealing with injuries in the secondary. But the most notable injury and the most severe would be Luke Wypler. He suffered a fractured right ankle. He was carted off the field. Kevin Stefanski said it will require surgery. However, he did not initially say that it is season ending. My suspicion is that Luke Wypler is going to be placed on IR like tomorrow or today possibly. And with the new rules, you could potentially elevate someone from IR to the active roster, even though it's before the roster cutdown day. So if he makes really good progress on his rehab, maybe they bring him back, but I think he's destined for IR. It's probably unlikely we see him play in 2024. The Browns are likely going to go add another backup offensive lineman to fill his and Brian Allen's spot as the backup center. And unfortunately for the former 6th-round pick, his season is likely over. But let's get into some winners and losers. First winner and the biggest winner has to be DTR. He was the lone bright spot, I would say, on offense or defense in the preseason game yesterday. 14 for 18, 134 yards. He was the only one out there that seemed like he had any chance of moving the ball down the field. I mean, the Browns were trailing 23-3 at one point, and with DTR in the field, at least it looked like they had some sort of pulse or a spark on offense, but it was not enough to actually make them come back and win the game, which is perfectly fine. It's preseason football. You should not put much weight into preseason wins and losses. But DTR, without a doubt, is the biggest winner, which definitely put some pressure on Tyler Huntley. He started the game off, Jameis Winston started. He only threw the ball 5 times. He went 4 for 5. He played one series, then his day was done. Huntley played the rest of the first half, so he got the most runs with the second-team offense, I would say. He went 6 for 9 for 41 yards. But pressure is definitely shifting towards Tyler Huntley for QB3. We can kind of safely say tie goes to Dorian Thompson-Robinson for that final quarterback spot because he was an Andrew Berry draft pick. So there's always going to be some level of bias by GMs to players that they drafted. It just reflects better on them if they don't move on for them so quickly. So for Huntley, he's got to make the most out of the next 2 preseason games to show he is worthy of that final QB spot. If not, likely either be released or maybe traded to a team that's looking for a quarterback like, I don't know, maybe the Chargers. I mean, Justin Herbert's going to miss the rest of training camp most likely with that foot injury, and the other quarterbacks that played for them were not very inspiring, so I wouldn't be shocked to see if Huntley gets traded to LA. But speaking of quarterbacks in general, not specific to DTR or Huntley, in the Browns' history, which Browns quarterback were you wrong about? Who did you think was going to be all the way up here, and they ended all the way down here? I was pretty high on Johnny Football. I think we all were, so that's one I was wrong about for sure. But let me know which quarterback you were just dead wrong on. I hate picking on this next player, but I feel like his name keeps popping up for appropriate reasons. The first loser I have from preseason week 1, it's defensive tackle Siaki Ika. Played 17 snaps and recorded 0 tackles. Not in the box score at all, which is an interior defensive lineman. That's not necessarily the job, but man, for a guy fighting for a roster spot, every little bit helps. And I felt like Siaki Ika was either on the ground or getting pushed out of the play every single time I saw him on the field. He's going into his second season now, and I'm not seeing much improvement. And that stinks, and it's unfortunate for a third-round draft pick, but I think we need to acknowledge the fact that just because he's a third-round draft pick doesn't mean we should hold his hand all the way to the finish line for making the roster. He's got to prove he is one of the 53 best players on this team right now, and it's not looking that way. Now, Mike Hall, speaking of the position in general, we got to see our first look at the rookie. He had 20 snaps, 1 tackle. I was hoping for a little bit more juice out of Mike, but it's the first preseason game of the year. It's his first preseason game in his entire NFL career. I'm definitely not going to make a big deal out of this, and I do mean that with full sincerity. When we get to the third preseason game, and we've seen more of Mike Hall and Siaki Ika, which, by the way, they're kind of in not just Mike Hall's a roster lock. Siaki is battling for a roster spot, but they are definitely battling for meaningful snaps in the regular season. If Dalvin Tomlinson and Shelby Harris, who are battling injuries right now, miss some time when September rolls around or can't go at 100% right out of the gate. So definitely keep an eye on the rookie DT in the next two preseason games. Before we look at the other winners and losers, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at GameTime. If you love summer baseball and want to catch a Guardians game, a Browns preseason game, a concert, or any other team in your local area, you're going to want to give GameTime a shot. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. One thing I really like about GameTime is they offer the GameTime guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the GameTime app today, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Second winner from Saturday's game, I'm going to go with linebacker Devin Bush, a player that I was somewhat skeptical of when the signing was made, but Devin Bush had, I thought, a really strong showing against the Packers. In 36 snaps, he recorded 6 tackles. One tackle he made with one knee on the ground. He met the Packers running back in the hole. It was a third and short situation, and he drove him back while taking a knee pretty much. It was pretty impressive to see, and so Devin Bush definitely lands in the winner's circle for that first preseason game, and I think he's in a good spot to be one of the 3 starting linebackers for the Browns. We know JOK and Jordan Hicks are locks to be starters and whatnot. Now, I don't think we're going to see a lot of 3 linebacker sets this year. We're probably going to see a base defense closely resemble a nickel defense with an extra DB on the field instead of 3 linebackers. But when they get to 3rd and 3 goal line situations and you want as many run stoppers on the field, I think Devin Bush is going to be the first one off the sideline and on the field. Former first-round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played 4 years in Pittsburgh, went to Seattle last year. I mean, unfortunately, the big splash plays have disappeared from his game over the last couple of seasons. I mean, 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 0 interceptions the last 2 years. But hopefully that kind of playmaking abilities can spark back up again in Cleveland. Andrew Berry signed Devin Bush really for one reason only: the athletic traits. And Andrew Berry has done this before. He is a known athletic trait pursuer. He does it in the draft. He's done it in free agency. And he is gambling on, hey, here's a great athlete. I've got a great defensive coordinator. Put them together, and Jim Schwartz should be able to get that first round or close to type of play out of Devin Bush that others fail to do. Now, before we get to the other winners and losers, come hang out with us next Saturday for week 2 of the preseason. We're trying to reach our goal before then of 35,300 subscribers. We're at 74 subs at the moment. So make sure to hit the sub button down below, or we're 74 subs away. So make sure to hit the sub button down below and lock yourself in for the best spot for Browns preseason coverage. Speaking of the preseason, we had an absolute blast during the first preseason game. I want to give some shout-outs right now to the Brown and Orange Club. Members of the Brown and Orange Club sent in $50 super chats during our watch party. So shout-out to Tim Green, Mike Dibble, Jeremy Stallman, Slow But Sure, David Botner. Appreciate you guys for being legends and MVPs of the channel, going above and beyond to support us here at Chat Sports. So really appreciate you. And if you want to land yourself on the Brown and Orange Club, hang out with us during the preseason and regular season watch parties. Send us a $50 super chat in, and we'll get your name on screen for the entire season. Second loser now. I'm going to go with the entire offensive line. the offensive line sucked yesterday, right? Can we all agree? Now, good news, bad news, right? The bad news is the O-line sucked. The good news is it's not really the Browns' offensive line. I mean, look at the depth chart here for a moment. Jed Wills did not play. Joel Petonio did not play. Ethan Posick and Wyatt Teller both played less than 10 snaps, so may as well have not played. Jack Conklin did not play. DeJuan Jones did play, also played less than 10 snaps. The guys playing yesterday are not your 2024 Cleveland Browns offensive line. So that's the good news. But going back to the bad news a little bit, this was our first look at Andy Dickerson, the new offensive line coach for Cleveland, and it wasn't a great showing from his unit. Now, I know that the guys on the field are hopefully never going to see, and sorry to them, but also not sorry, action in the regular season because they're not the starters, and some of them weren't even really the backups. Like Michael Dunn, your first offensive lineman for the interior off the bench, also did not play. So I'm not concerned about the offensive line because it's not the Browns' offensive line. It's a practice squad offensive line. And sure, maybe one of those guys could pop up into the roster at some point or even on the field, but not all five are going to pop up. So it's not too concerning, but if you do want to get nitpicky, this was our real first introduction to Andy Dickerson, and it wasn't a great showing from his unit. So they've got some work to do. Third and final winner. Let's go with rookie wide receiver Jamari Thrash, a day 3 pick out of Louisville, and I thought he was really impressive for the Browns yesterday. Only Michael Woods had more snaps as a wide receiver, and Thrash put up 3 grabs for 43 yards. He's number 80 on the field. He was working the middle of the field. I was really encouraged by what I saw from Jamari Thrash. I think we're going to see more of him on special teams in year 1. But he's definitely going to make the roster, in my opinion. I mean, you've got your locks of Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore. I think Cedric Tillman's a lock. I think Jamari Thrash is a lock. And then you've got David Bell, Michael Woods, James Prochet, Jalen Darden, all those guys kind of battling for a 6th and final spot on the 53-man roster. But Jamari Thrash definitely showed some really good snaps and some good plays for just being a rookie in his first preseason game. So plenty to build on, but definitely plenty to be excited about from what we saw out of the 5th-round pick. Now, how much weight do you put into the preseason? Scale it 1 to 10. I put 3, like 3 out of 10. 10 being like, hey, if you don't go 3-0 in the preseason, you're going to go 0-17. No. Any Browns fan should know better than anyone else that going 4-0 in the preseason does not translate to, winning regular season. I'm looking for individual performances, and the individual performances we saw yesterday were little to none. It was probably one of the most boring preseason games I can remember for Browns fans. Like, there just wasn't a lot to really take in, and there wasn't a lot to draw away from. Like, Luke Wypler, the backup center's injury, is probably the biggest storyline coming out of the game. And that stinks, but it's also just a reflection of the Browns didn't show much, and they didn't put a lot of guys of note on the field. And the guys that were on the field of note played less than 10 snaps. So I put 3. Like, I don't think you should go 0-3 in the preseason and lose by 50 points each time. But you can definitely go 0-3 in the preseason, and I'm not going to be concerned whatsoever. All right, time to pick a card here. Dylan Sutcliffe, a longtime viewer of the channel and someone who really enjoys the card picking moment at the end of the video. Which card do you want to go with, Mr. Texaroni?
Let me go with the 7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds? I'm going to go with the 4 of spades. What'd you say?
7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds!
Let's go!
Producer Matthew McCullough. There you go. He comes in on a Sunday with me to get this video out. I think this is worth it. Wouldn't you agree? 7 diamonds over a Sunday off? This was a great trade. We should do this more often.
Good trade.
All right. We'll let you guys get back to the rest of your Sunday. We'll see you all later. Go Brownies.